Good evening, council and staff. Let the record show it's Monday, September the 29th, 2025. For those that have joined us virtually, we welcome you. For those that have joined with us in person, thank you for being with us tonight. I would remind all those in attendance that have been asked that your communication devices either shut off or are placed on vibrate, please. Before I begin, I have a couple things to share with you. The first one is personal. I want to thank the members of the council, staff, you, the residents of the great municipality of this our great municipality. The support and the compassion that has been shown to myself and my family members this past year, especially the last few weeks and months. My personal appreciation goes to our Deputy Mayor, Nettie McEwen, for stepping into the leadership role, often on a moment's notice, without hesitation. I thank you, Deputy. Secondly, on behalf of our council and residents, I'd like to express our congratulations to our work department employees, Greg Atkinson and Ed Babcock, for their outstanding performance at the Provincial Truck Rodeo in Carleton Place. We will be inviting them to a future council meeting to be properly recognized. And finally, tomorrow, September the 30th, is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a day to recognize the atrocities and the multi-generational effects of the Canadian Indian residential school system. I would encourage each of you to take a moment and do your own silent reflection. This meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral lands of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as Anishinaabe. Through the connection of Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, the water, and air, that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together, as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future of generations to come. Council, I would remind you, if you have a pecuniary interest, to please declare it either now or at the appropriate time. Let's go to item number 4 on our agenda, Council. We had 3 delegations, now we only have 2, clerk. Okay, I would remind each of those that are going to be speaking that you have 15 minutes. Presentations are for our information, and no decision will be made or take place this evening. There's a little housekeeping at the 14-minute mark. I will raise my hand, and at the 15-minute mark, the gavel will drop. That's my way to tell you thank you very much. I appreciate it. So our first one that we have this evening is Jessica Jessom. Did I say your name right this time, Jess? It's taken me over a year, but I got it right. Thank you.
Neighbors, Mayor, member of council, thank you for having me today. I stand here today not only as a resident, but someone who's been forced continuously to address what has become a clear breakdown of your planning process. The Planning Act requires council to make a decision on a zoning bylaw amendment within 90 days or 120 days if tied to a site plan application. The applicant Cornerstone Group has submitted this proposal 4 times. Twice already, this municipality deemed the application complete. Once on March 28th, 2024, under zoning bylaw amendment 38 of 2024, and again on April 22nd, 2025. At this time, that was the 4th submission. By May 2025, the most recent submission was circulated to various departments and agencies, and a third party was contacted to complete a peer review of the odor assessment report. Comments from town staff and the peer review report were provided to the applicant. Each time the statutory timeline clock began running, we are now well past those deadlines. Meanwhile, residents are now told that new studies, noise, odor, hydrogeological are being requested, but these are not new concerns. They were already raised in 2022 by the town's senior planner, Louis Steves. In the pre-application consultation letter dating April 8th, 2022, at that time, staff required a phase 1 environmental site assessment with a potential phase 2 due to historical activities on that site and the risk of off-site contamination. A noise impact study due to the proximity of semi-truck and trailer noises adjacent to residents. A geotechnical and hydrogeological report. A stormwater management report. Consideration of a municipal drain traversing the property, which the proposed building was shown to sit directly on top of. Any relocation or modification of the drain would require approvals. Review of above ground fuel tanks and their impact on nearby private wells, with risk assessments and supporting documentation to confirm compliance with technical standards and safety authority requirements. A traffic impact study, unless justified for exemption. I only listed a few of these that were recommended by your senior planner in 2022. These cautions are on record and provided in writing to both the applicant and municipal staff. At the April 13th, 2022 follow-up meeting with town staff, county staff, Monteth Brown planning consultants, and the applicant, the record shows that the above ground fuel tanks were removed from the proposal to avoid study requirements. The noise study was waived if fencing was installed and no environmental impact assessment was required. Yet today, those same above ground fuel tanks are on site and in active use daily. What was presented in 2022 was and is proven false. This is not a minor discrepancy. It proves misrepresentation by the applicant and a failure of enforcement by the town and the county. A building permit was issued under a separate guise, despite now the both CAO and the town's chief building official being directly involved in pre-planning discussions as far back as 2022. The town had every opportunity to act and didn't. Instead, residents have been left with flooding and drainage failures tied to 5309 and 5310 Layden, with the municipal drain literally built over it. Heavy truck noise, vibrations without mitigation. Above ground fuel tanks near private wells. Continued operation of a commercial facility in a hamlet, contrary to zoning without approvals. In addition of 5507 Co-op Street, which was also tied to this rezoning request. Further expanding the impact on our residents. Even when a public planning meeting was scheduled in April 2024, it was a developer who postponed it, prolonging the process yet again. Now, after years of deferral, council is being asked to consider fresh studies as if this file were new. But under the Planning Act, this file is not new. It's been deemed complete. Council has an obligation to make a decision based on that completed application. The question that must be answered here is simple. How was this property issued a permit under a different guise when staff knew in 2022 what the real intended use was? Why, when the county discovered in early 2024 that the building was not being used for its permitted use, has this been continued to be allowed? The ongoing delay is not protecting residents. It is harming them. Residents are dealing daily with nuisances, health risks, and devaluation of their homes because of a process that this municipality had the power and the duty to enforce years ago. The Planning Act is clear. A complete application triggers a statutory clock. That clock has run out. Asking for new studies now does not reset the deadline. It only confirms what residents already know. This process has been flawed from the beginning, and the town has now turned a blind eye. Tonight, I call on all council members to comply with the statutory duty and make a decision. Do not defer. The law requires it, and the residents deserve no less. Thank you.
Ms. Jessamine. Our second speaker is Jennifer Bailey.
Members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today in my opposition to the proposed rezoning in Wanstead. I understand that the decision process has been postponed, resulting in requesting more studies, but more studies will not make this proposal compatible, nor will they change the opposition stance of those residing in Wanstead. I have submitted a detailed report featuring 13 key points of why this proposal does not meet compatibility in relation to the provincial policy statements of 2024. Today, I will be speaking on a few of those points. Firstly, I would like to discuss the incompatibility with Wanstead's rural character. PPS 2024 emphasizes the protection of rural character. It calls for development to maintain the agricultural and low-density fabric of rural communities. This proposed wash bay, designed for year-round use involving high-frequency livestock transport, wastewater management, and biosecurity operations, directly contradicts that goal. The applicant has pointed to the Wanstead Farmers Cooperative as justification for compatibility. The co-op is primarily seasonal in operation, aligned with planting and harvest cycles, and most importantly, the co-op is buffered by open agricultural fields, separating their business from the residential homes. Traffic related to the Wanstead co-op does not use Layton Street, meaning their traffic does not enter the residential area within the hamlet. I would also like the council members here today to also consider that transport trucks hauling biosecurity material will be traveling directly through the co-op. A co-op that stores and transports grain meant for human consumption and the potential implications of such. In fact, the only building in Wanstead that meaningfully compares to what is being proposed is the facility at 5309 Layton Street. That building was approved under the premise of being a strawberry packing facility, yet was constructed with infrastructure consistent with a drying or baking bay, raising serious concerns about the original intent and transparency of the land use. The wash bay configuration, scale, and site circulation concerns. The planning report now states that there will only be 2 wash bays. Despite the reduction from 4 wash bays to 2, there's been no changes to the site layout or the overall size and capacity of the development. In fact, concerns have been raised that the anticipated daily truck traffic may be minimized, possibly to appease council and staff and reduce the perception of impact. But when you look at the scale of the site, the infrastructure, the trailer parking, the water consumption levels, it's clear that this operation is designed for high frequency use, regardless of how it's described on paper. This brings up a critical gap in the application. No truck turning movement or internal circulation study has been provided. This site will be handling large agricultural transport trucks and livestock haulers. This application lacks clear evidence that the trucks can enter, maneuver, and exit the site entirely within the property. Evidence that there will be no reversing required onto Layton Street. And evidence that all truck movements are safe, compliant with municipal standards, and feasible under real-world operating conditions. Without a truck turning movement or internal circulation study, we are only left to assume that these large vehicles will safely navigate the site and share the road with the pedestrians, horses, everyday vehicles, including buses. My next objection focuses on the issue of noise, and more specifically, the incompatibility of this facility with surrounding sensitive land uses. Transport truck engines idling, especially in early morning hours, high-pressure washing equipment, dryers, pumps, ventilation systems, loading and unloading of equipment and trailers in the bays, air brakes, backup alarms, mechanical noise from maintenance and storage areas, and the regular movement of trucks entering and exiting the site, often in clusters during high demand periods. These noise impacts are not theoretical. They are predictable, ongoing, and disruptive, especially considering that many neighboring homes are located within direct proximity to the site. In fact, this facility is surrounded by residential dwellings, family farms, and rural homes, all of which are classified as sensitive land uses under PPS 2024. PPS 2024 is very clear. Developments must avoid, or where avoidance is not possible, minimize and mitigate adverse effects on sensitive land uses. The applicant has completed some superficial mitigation measures, berms, trees, fencing. The level of noise anticipated will not be truly mitigated. Rural residents are entitled to the same level of protection from noise and land use conflict as the urban residents. Approving a facility that introduces unavoidable industrial scale noise into a quiet rural hamlet fails to meet the compatibility standards set out in the PPS. Hours of operation and impact on residents. The planning report states that the proposed facility will operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturdays. But these hours are misleading and do not accurately reflect the true operational impact on neighboring residents. A 6 a.m. start time means early morning disruption. Transport trucks and staff will likely begin arriving on site well before that time, potentially as early as 5 a.m. to prepare for the day's operations. This introduces noise from idling trucks, trucks movement, and equipment prep while most residents are still sleeping. Additionally, trucks may line up and idle along Layton Street, creating noise, exhaust fumes, safety risk, and visual intrusions on a residential road not designated for industrial traffic. But even more concerning is what's not accounted for: the possibility of biosecurity emergencies, outbreaks such as African swine fever and avian flu, and other livestock diseases. This facility is being partially funded by the federal government to serve as part of a regional ASF emergency response plan. A key point not included in any of the planning reports. That means that in the event of an outbreak, this site could operate outside of stated business hours, run on an extended emergency basis, experience surges in truck traffic, noise activity, especially during disinfection periods. This is not just a routine facility with fixed hours. It is a designated biosecurity site that could activate 24/7, dependent on agricultural crisis. The proposed hours in the report fail to reflect that reality. Members of council, this proposed biosecurity wash bay facility is an operation incompatible with the quiet rural character of Wanstead. It brings increased truck traffic, noise, odor, and health safety risk next to sensitive land uses. Risks not properly addressed in the application. The provincial policy statement protects communities like ours from this type of incompatible development. We support agriculture and biosecurity, but not at the expense of our health and our safety and quality of life. There is no mitigation that can fully address these impacts. Fences don't stop odors, noise, or mosquitoes. I would also like to take a moment to address in the comments in the August 2025 planning report stated on page 6. The sentence reads, "There were no comments received from members of the public before the report was completed," referencing the April 19th, 2024 report. I want to be clear. Prior to this report, the residents of Wanstead were not aware of the proposal or the full intended use of the properties in question. This lack of transparency is deeply concerning and highlights a broader issue of insufficient public engagement throughout this process, a process that clearly dates back to 2022. Let's call this application what it is: a proposal that amounts to backdoor zoning or planning by stealth, term strongly discouraged by the Ontario Land Tribunal because they erode public trust and undermine the integrity of the planning process. Transparency and accountability are essential to fair and responsible land use decisions. A traffic and noise assessment has been requested by members of council, and rightly so. However, concerns remain about whether these studies will fully capture the true scope and impact of the proposed development. Both the planner's report and the planning justification report fail to explicitly recognize this facility as a biosecurity operation, without acknowledging its intended use, including emergency response functions, livestock transport, and disinfection procedures. Any assessment risks underestimating the frequency, intensity, and unpredictability of both traffic and noise impacts on the surrounding community. For the protection of Wanstead and its residents, I strongly urge you to deny this application and any further similar applications to this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. First of all, I want to thank both of our presenters this evening. Ms. Bailey, thank you for that submission that you sent to us. We do appreciate that as well. I assure both of our presenters that your words have not fell on deaf ears. All will be carefully considered as we do our due diligence moving forward. Hopefully we can have this taken care of shortly. Thank you very much for your professionalism. We do appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councils.
Thanks.
And with that, everybody, neighbors, what is that, Taylor?
Give you a couple minutes if you want to leave.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hi. Close with that. Girl, I got you. That's
Council, just for your information, so it's on the record, our third delegation that we had this evening officially requested a withdrawal at this time. So that's why we've only had two. We were unable to attend apparently, so we respect that. Okay, let's go to item number 5, any business arising from previous meetings. Clerk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, declare that order closed. Staff reports. Under that, item 6.
Not Your Worship.
Declare that item closed. Item 7, bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Item 8, correspondence.
No action required correspondence.
Thank you. All right, let's go to item 9.1. I have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Basie, that the correspondence items A to C related to recommended reading and routine approval, and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. That's A to C. To my left, is there anything that you would like to pull or address? Councillor Wolbeck?
I would pull out A, Farm Consolidation Policy Memo, September the 16th, 2025. No, there's been some questions around this and some emails around it. I do believe what I'm reading in this is really just cleaning up the existing bylaw to reflect what the new rules are. I would say that some of the things I've heard is the provincial government had brought down this farm consolidation, and I just like to correct that was actually a proposal from this council, previous council, and this council to support farm consolidation. And we did that through a process. It was a long road, but we opposed it. It was passed, and so it wasn't the province that come down and said, we have to do this. It was this municipality that encouraged it. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the council. And this is what I see is just bringing up to speed our bylaw to correct multiple accessory buildings on the property to make sure that there's only one severance allowed per farm, not if there's 3 houses, it doesn't mean you get 3 severances and that type of stuff. That's what it's cleaning up. So just want to bring the attention to council.
Anything else in the bylaw? Ryan Clever.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think just to clarify, in my mind, I think the statement where a farm operation is eligible to sever one residential lot from each farm parcel that makes up a farm operation. So I think that's been changed. Has that been? Maybe I'm asking Maria. Rossi, has that been changed? That particular statement from one severance per operation. Now it's been changed maybe to a severance from a residential lot from each farm parcel in a farm operation. Am I understanding that correct?
Your worship.
Yes.
So there has been sufficient amount of time has passed for staff to revise their interpretation on the initial release of the PPS. So this interpretation provides some additional flexibility in terms of allowing for not just the one severance, but a severance up per farm consolidation. So once there is a new purchase that is being consolidated with the farm operation, it will allow, if it meets the criteria, it will allow for that severance as opposed to the one. The interpretation that we feel is more flexible and more reasonable in terms of the severances to the number 1 is in relation to if there is an existing dwelling on the lot plus an additional second dwelling, then the severance, there would only be one severance, but the additional dwelling would have to be severed with the dwelling, with the primary dwelling on that lot. So that is what we have deemed to be more consistent and reasonable.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's turned out to be a lot to do about nothing. There was, with the release of the draft 2024 PPS, or it was draft 2023 PPS, there's some new wording to this policy different from what it had been for many, many years. It added the word one residence per farm consolidation may be severed. And then when the final wording came out, it was one lot per farm consolidation. And we kind of questioned what are they trying to say by changing this wording. So in our initial efforts to obtain clarity on this, we were led to believe that this was what was required, that it meant one per farm operation. And so through further discussion, I think the clarification has come out that in fact, the wording of one lot per farm consolidation is meant to address the fact that now they're allowing all these ADUs on a farm property, and that, to clarify, you can't sever off each ADU and the main dwelling as a separate surplus farm dwelling. So as I said, much to do about nothing. At the end of the day, it's basically the same policy that we've been working under all along.
You just want to follow up, and just to be clear, if a farming operation has 5 surplus building homes on 5 separate farm parcels, in theory, they could eventually go through the process to sever each and every one of them.
Right, and through you, Mr. Mayor, every severance is going to be subject to satisfying a number of criteria. But if they satisfied all those criteria, then in theory, each of those lots could be severed, even if they're all part of one farm operation.
Good. Okay, that's super. Thank you.
And that's what we've done all along in the past, and we're quite happy to be able to continue it that way.
Out there. That's good. You.
That it, Counselor?
Yes, sir.
You have anything from you?
No, not too much.
Anything am I right? Nothing?
Anybody else has got any?
Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
You cannot sever a lot, correct? It has to be a residence, has to be a house on that there. You can't, if you had a clear 100 acres and when you put application in, just to sever a lot with no building. My understanding, that's not allowed. It has to be a residential.
Correct. There is a statement in the provincial policy statement that says you may not create a residential lot in prime agricultural lands except, and then the exception is a surplus farm dwelling. So you can only sever off a residential lot if it contains a surplus farm dwelling, severance and surplus farm dwelling. And again, that's up to the municipality. The municipality does not have to permit that. This municipality does. You can impose whatever restrictions and further criteria on that you want. So it's something that's an option available to municipalities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Rodriguez?
I just want to ask a question, a little bit topic that goes to that law. It always seems confusing. When you're surplusing a farm dwelling, nothing changes on the zoning on that piece of land. The only rezoning happens on the remaining agricultural parcel that gets a N in front of them. You can't develop anything. If residential use no longer part of a farming operation, why does it not get rezoned to residential? Why does it stay agricultural?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So from an assessment standpoint and things like that, definitely it gets assessed as a single detached dwelling. And there are municipalities that do zone those properties to residential. There are municipalities and not in this county, but there are municipalities that have gone through and identified all the residential lots in the rural area and zone them as a separate zone from a farm. But the way most of our zoning bylaws are set up and the way Plympton-Wyoming is set up is that you have one single zone that covers the agricultural area, prime agricultural lands, that covers both farms and residences. So whether you're a 1 acre lot or a 100 acre lot, you're the same zone. But the zoning provisions have a set of standards that apply to a residential lot versus a farm lot. So when you get severed into onto a residential sized lot, even without being rezoned, there's also now a set of zoning parameters that now apply to you as a residential lot. I think one of the things that people sometimes question is questions like, well, should people be allowed to have livestock on a 2-acre lot if it's primarily residential use? My personal opinion is that you know, if somebody wants to have a couple of goats or a hobby farm or something like that, and they meet the distances from neighbors and things like that, then yes, why wouldn't they be allowed to have that on that rural residential lot? The MDS will ensure that it's a livestock operation that's of a scale that's appropriate for that size of property. And aside from that, I really don't know what reason there would be to zone it to a different residential zone.
You're allowing for flexibility of the cultural definition versus the use of residential, because the use and the zoning are the same. So it's to allow for that flexibility.
Yes.
Anything further? You'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Yeah, let's go to item number 10, new business related to planning. Councilor Bojan?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Councilor Vacy?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Rodriguez?
Nothing.
Eddie?
Nothing.
Van Cleveren?
I just had one small little tidbit. There was a bit of chatter online and had a resident reach out about the turning lanes at the new lights and size trucks or trucks in general, having a tough time making that corner. And it was suggested that if the turning lanes were retracted 20 feet, that a truck trying to make that corner, the oncoming traffic would be backed up 20 feet and they could make that corner a little easier. I don't know if that's something that could be considered or thought of, or
Well, I think probably since that's not a planning issue, but like a safety and
enough.
we could normally save that to our next council meeting, but I think because of the severity and the safety aspect, maybe we'll leave it with staff to look at, maybe have an answer for us when we come to our next council meeting. Would that be?
Oh, yeah, that's super.
Yes. I will, the Director of Public Works is away for the next 2 weeks. We'll have our engineering tech follow up with the designing engineer to review the turning patterns for large trucks and see if improvements need to be made.
Okay, thank you.
Good point to bring up. Thank you. Councilor Wolbach, anything from you?
No, but I will just add to Mr. Van Claveren's issue with the lights, coming from the north, heading south. The parking spots, well, you look at it yourself, if you're coming from the north, traffic is actually having to cut through those last parking spots to go straight, south. So I think
Them.
get our engineers to look at it, they may have to push that parking back a bit, but try it for yourself and you'll see what I mean. You're cutting right across that last parking lane, so almost everybody, so able to adjust that. I know you blacked some of it, but
Southbound or north?
southbound.
Southbound on.
Yeah, and on, yeah,
Good points. We want to make sure everything's safe.
all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. We go to item 11, nothing listed for a closed meeting. Nothing's been added, clerk. Okay, clear that order of business closed. We have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Wolbach. That bylaw 105 of 2025 being a bylaw to confirm all resolutions, council meetings held September 29th, 2025, taken as read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? Carried. And our last one for this meeting is moved by Councillor Vacy, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, that the regular planning meeting be adjourned till the next regular planning meeting on Monday, October 27th, 2025. Council and those that are joining us virtually or that will arrive in person, we have a 6 o'clock public meeting in about approximately 20 minutes, so let's go back to that motion. All those in favor? Carried. Well, this meeting is adjourned. For those watching this, as I said, we'll be taking a brief 20-minute break and we'll resume our public meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank you.